Our next speaker is not just the county executive. He's a great leader, a great man, and a man who has an unrivaled commitment to equality and advancement for all. If you ask anyone who knows or has worked with the county executive, they know that he proves his commitment through his actions. So I'd like to welcome, and it's an honor to welcome my boss, County Executive Tonney, to the board.
Sophie, every program you run turns out to be a tremendous success. You know, I was born and raised in the city of Wilmington until I was 22, 2515 Monroe Street, Salesianum by Warner. I didn't know we had a race problem until the riots of '68, when I could see the city burning. But you have people in this room, and I asked Sam Guy to be short this morning. But Sam Guy spent his entire life, Sam could be working for any corporation because of his degrees. I had to go tell his mother and father recently that, you know, he has enough degrees. He's a lawyer, he's got masters in this, masters in that, military academy, mathematician. At some point, Sam has to grow up and start making money. But Sam is not rich because he's taken on every civil rights fight. When you threaten the Superior Court, you threaten the federal court, that if they don't put a black judge on, terrible things are going to happen. And they killed the messenger. Sam recently represented somebody that was unjustly charged, a professor from the University of Delaware, and won it. And I guarantee you, Sam didn't charge. And I can go on and on about Sam's history. Sam is a civil rights, and he gets me in trouble sometimes when he goes to county council and says things that I lose 3 or 4 votes for a couple weeks. My advice is, you got such people like Jay Street's back here who spent his entire life fighting for the schools. If you got a panel together where Jay and Keith Booker and Sam and my friend Reverend Bullock, who can take it to different places in Harmon County, could talk and we record 3D their history before it's gone, would probably be more valuable than anything you could ever do, because things are not the way they look today. And living in the city, I didn't know that the blacks couldn't eat at Woolworths. I never went to Woolworths. I didn't have any money either. But the history, if it isn't told soon, is going to dissipate. I would like to take a second to say that my Chief Administrative Officer, Dave Grimaldi, is here today. We have Wayne Dotson. We have Tony Prado on camera, and of course, Frank Cook, who everybody knows. And I want to tell one short story before I do the proclamation. I've been on a cruise in 40 years. I took my family on a cruise a few months ago, and my daughter got engaged to somebody from Tunisia. So I put my daughter on a plane last night to Tunisia, Africa, one of the most dangerous states in the continent of Africa. And every time I did the history of it, I got more and more scared. And first thing I did this morning, got up, you can actually do FaceTime and from Tunisia. So I got her as she got off the plane, and she was just unbelievably telling me about how beautiful, for a little girl that's never been out of Hocus, Tunisia was. That is nothing like you said. I said, well, just keep in one thing in mind, Jennifer, your dad doesn't have a lot of money. If you get kidnapped, you got to tell them your dad doesn't have a lot of money, and they're not going to take a payment plan. So you need to be nondescript, stay low with your boyfriend, and please stay safe. But so I have a connection now with Africa, and I'm going to learn an awful lot about it. But from what she was saying, it was like heaven. I have a resolution that I'm going to read. It's a proclamation, and I'm going to ask when I get done to go over to sign it, the council members to come up here and stand with me. I want Sam and Keith Booker. A proclamation from the office of the County Executive of Newcastle County, be it hereby known to all that Honorable Thomas P. Gordon, Newcastle County Executive, recognizes the month of February as Black History Month. Whereas the Association of Study of African American Life in Africa and History was founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, considered the father of Black Africa in 1915. And whereas, in keeping with the significant milestone, the Association for Study of African American Life and History has selected a century of Black life, history of culture, and the 2015 National Black History theme. And whereas, in keeping with this theme, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our nation, to our nation's economy, culture, spiritual, and political development. Whereas among many contributions, citizens that were many Newcastle County residents, such as Ms. Pauline A. Young, historian, Dr. Patricia Turner, physician, Mr. George A. Johnson, educator, Edward L. Luber, senior, artist, Mr. Williams Julius Judy Johnson, member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and Reverend Maurice J. Moyer, church founder and civil rights activist, just to name a few. And whereas Black History Month, which began in 1926 as the Negro History Week, has been designated as a special time to acknowledge and honor Black achievement and achievers. Therefore, I, Thomas B. Gordon, County Executive of Newcastle County, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim this month of February to be Black History Month in Newcastle County, which is 2/3 of the state of Delaware, I might add. I encourage all Newcastle County residents to join me in celebrating the collective integrity, creativity, traditions, and culture of the African Americans by participating in and honoring their contributions. Further, I call upon elected officials, educators, librarians, and all citizens of Newcastle County to observe this month by participating in this appropriate program, ceremonies, and activities. Signed this morning on the 14th day of February 2015 by me. One more thing, we're building what is going to come out to be, J Streets and the Reverend can talk about it, a library innovation center that right now is, in terms of money, it's probably $35 million. It's going to be the biggest, most modern innovation center in the country. And it's going to be part of its charge is to be collecting and documenting African American history. But every day that goes by, you're losing testimony of people like Reverend Moyer, who we should have had, and others. So I think it's appropriate, and I think we need to make it urgent, that we record the history of the shoulders of the individuals that we all are standing on. So if we could get Josie Roy, I apologize. Josie's one of my closest advisors and friends, and I didn't have her. I'm sorry?
Tony Gardner.
Does everybody know Tony? I got to talk about Tony for a minute. You know, I hired Tony's from DuPont, and Dave and I said, where can we get somebody from procurement? And Dave went on and he found one of the #1 procurement. He said, there's this guy named Tony Gardner who's retired from DuPont who does procurement for the entire country. And I always tell Tony I didn't know he was black. And it was a double hitter when we had the most qualified person that we could find also become our procurement officer. And we're very proud of, at a time where minorities get very little of procurement from every government, at a time where opportunities are becoming less and less. To be able, I always have to throw up his qualifications and that of Sophia, who has a degree from MIT. And I always have to use that when I go into a meeting. That, you know, I have a lot of minorities on my staff, but you can't beat any of them with their qualifications anywhere. And to start with my friend Sam here and say, so you can hire very high-grade, most qualified individuals in the country in government. And we have proven it. I have an attorney from Harvard, and you all probably know Darryl Parson. We could go on and on. We won't, but I do recommend we follow up with these giants that we have among us. And I would ask, I'm going to sign this proclamation over here. We could have Sam. We could have my good friend Harmon, of course, CAO Bullock, Reverend Bullock, and Jay. Please come up, as well as, I think I may have listed those, I was sitting here thinking, and Keith Booker. And anybody else?
No. I do not see Councilman. Councilman, will you please come up here?
We have the city councilman, good friend, who's helped us on many of our programs. Probably come up here.
We are going to put you on channel 20.
I have Kristen up here, and then Christine and Kristen.
Again, I'd like to thank Sophia for putting this together. And this is very special to me, being among my friends. I'm honored to have you all come up here as we sign this proclamation right now at 11:45. I'm going to ask President Bullock and J Street to fix their name. And as well, all the elected